Beautiful day to get some new information and updates on BHG money. But if you haven't, and if you're still here and you're checking out the information, as always, nothing to sell other than check out the free group. So if you want data points, if you want information that is live and up to date, and you want to learn how to travel and save thousands and or get access to thousands of additional capital for your investments or your business, then check out the free school group because we are giving away the game there. And it's free, and it's a great way for you to connect and collaborate and network with other people and learn more. So, as always, check that out and hit the comment section. If you've dealt with BHG, if you have a situation with BHG, if you have questions about anything, just tattoo the comment section. We'll be in there as well. And it's always helpful. So you can always comment and like and subscribe, and we'll keep these things coming. But what I want to do is I want to break down BHG, Bankers Healthcare Group, their loans and their credit cards, because there are some updates that I want to talk about, especially from my experience. So if you're not familiar with BHG, Bankers Healthcare Group. So most people think that they just apply to healthcare professionals, in which they do. That's kind of their goal, but you actually do not have to be affiliated with healthcare whatsoever. So what Bankers Healthcare Group does is they actually have different loan options and debt consolidation loans for people in the healthcare space. So, right, a lot of those individuals, a lot of the people in those careers have a lot of debt from their education or personal debt because of that. So it helps them consolidate it and or put some things and money into motion for their own practices. But you do not necessarily need to be in the healthcare space at all. There are multiple people, even like myself, who were not and got access to different options that BHG provided. Now, what I want to show here is you can technically get an estimate for their business loans without doing a hard pull. So you can get a soft pull and you can get an estimate of kind of what they'll give you. What we can see, right, just on their terms, right, you can get pretty much between 20 and 250 and up to 500,000. The majority of information that I have seen from people going with the loan options is around the 100 to 200,000 mark. Now, one thing to notice is they actually typically do have a little bit higher interest rates. Now, down here, right, they talk about the interest APR being about 17.2%. And they give an example of pretty much a $60,000 loan and an 84-month payment plan at about $1,200 per month. That is one thing I will mention about BHG is they do typically have a little bit higher interest on their loans and on their options. So that is something that you need to think about of whether it's worth it for you. If you have a large amount of debt and it would be good for you to repay that or consolidate that and you can deal with the higher interest, then so be it. That's up to you. But that is one thing to note is yes, they can give out a pretty solid amount of money, which can be very helpful for a lot of people, but they do have higher interest. So something to think about there. And like I said, you can basically get an estimate and get an understanding of that and what you can get without, negatively affecting your credit report. One thing with them too is they technically are kind of like a ghost loan. They will not report and will not show that information on your personal side of things. So that is really helpful for a lot of people, right? Because that is not affecting your credit report with additional debt adding on to it. So that can be helpful. Now, where there was a lot of traction and a lot of information coming out last year was involving with their credit cards. Now, they don't show their credit cards, as you can see on here. I don't believe they still are available, but from some of the information that Radical had mentioned in one of his videos was that you can actually apply to the loan, get your estimate, and you don't necessarily need to accept that, and then you can have access to those business credit cards to apply there. Now, they have a very solid business credit card. At one point, BHG More, which was 12 months at 0%. I will talk about my experience with that. But from my understanding over the last few months, I have not seen anyone actually have access to that. So I actually do not think that they have a credit card side of things. I think they shut it down. And I will explain why I think they shut it down from my experience with the credit cards. Because, yeah, they were underwritten by Apex. Apex is something that is similar to Elon. So they underwrite different banks. The same company will underwrite multiple banks. So you can kind of get these same types of products, similar to Elon Financial, who underwrites, close to 100 plus banks, if not more, where you have access to 12, 18-month terms at 0%. So Apex is similar. I actually have looked into Apex, and there are about 6 or 7 banks that I have looked at. Some of their products actually do look differentiated a little bit, but Apex is something to look out for. So that is actually some game if you want to look into them. But when it comes down to their credit cards, BHG's credit cards, my experience and my opinion on working with BHG is don't. That is just my thoughts. I ended up getting 12K. And most of the limits that I've seen from the BHG card have between 8 and 25K, up to 25K at 0% for 12 months. Now, when I ended up getting the card, they ended up closing that card at around 60 days. No information, no reason being, no follow up, nothing. I had called BHG 10 plus times. And this is where I actually had a real big problem, especially with their customer service. And this is why I come from this perspective. Like I said, if you want to do the loan and you have looked into them enough and spoke to people who are happy with them, then sure. But my experience with their customer service and the way that they treat their customers is atrocious, which is why I do not recommend them. And if they do have the credit cards, this is why I do not recommend them unless you're in some type of dire situation. But they closed mine down after 60 days. I'd called them 10 plus times, and I'm not even kidding you. I had spoke to maybe the same guy every single time. They literally had like one customer service rep, and every single time we do not have any information on why it was closed. They just have the reason to close it, and they can do that whenever they feel like. Okay. I get that. But can you give me the real information on why it was closed? What was the reasoning? What was the logistical process here? Blah, 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 blah. Now, one thing I will say is they did allow the 0% to run out. So the balance that I had on that card was allowed to stay at 0% for 12 months. So that was a positive, although I could not use the card. And I actually did have a bank account attached to it so I could make payments, but they would not allow me to do anything within my portal. So pretty much everything was closed off from whatever that balance was, but it still got to stay at 0% for 12 months. With that, I spoke to the same guy multiple times, never got any information. They said they expedited that to a higher management. Multiple times I tried to connect with higher management. They would never connect me. There was a scapegoat or a roadblock where they would not connect you with anyone else. They said that it was expedited to a higher team and that they would be reaching out. I've never received anything from any higher team, from any management. I had actually went to the levels of reaching out to higher management. Now, I wasn't sure if they were specifically connected with the credit cards by any means, but I reached out to higher management through emails by, scraping some emails online and LinkedIn and never received any information there. If they are still offering the credit cards through this option, I don't recommend it because their customer experience was terrible. I spoke to the same customer service guy every single time, which is just really weird to me. And this is also why I think that they closed down the credit cards. They closed down that part of their business. I just don't think they're offering it anymore. But I thought it was very weird that they would not continue to help out and support the customers that were on the credit cards. And they just basically slashed it and said, forget about it. So really weird. I'm sure if you call the customer service line, you're probably talking to the same guy again. So that is my opinion on BHG. If you want the loans, right, make sure that the interest rate works for you and your situation. That's going to be the most important part. Credit cards, I do not recommend unless you're in some dire situation if for some reason you can get access to them. But my overall experience with BHG, I do not recommend them as a lender to work with. There are tons of other banks to work with. I just don't think that's a way that you should handle things. But as we know, right, banks are never really easy to work with. But it was just a weird situation where you never got any real information and any real data, and there was never anyone actually reaching out to help. It was just the same person. So that is my thoughts on BHG. That is the new updates for you guys to recognize with some additional, data points and opinions on that. As always, hit the comments. Let me know specifically if you had a same situation with BHG. I know a few people that did have the same situation with BHG. If you've gotten the loans in your experience and working with them on the loan and lending and debt consolidation side, feel free to drop that information below so that you're helping others who might be jumping on the video. So talk soon, friends.